Article from the Daily Mail. Facebook removes Trump ads that claim accepting refugees from abroad increases COVID-19 risks. Also bans ads supporting QAnon and militarized movements. Facebook on Wednesday removed a new Trump ad campaign that claimed taking in refugees would increase coronavirus health risks. I don't think that that's true. Okay, so hold on. I think Trump's actually correct. So, just given by the numbers of the immigrants that are coming in, they're not a huge threat from the diseases that are here. But when you have a porous border, it does increase the chance that the next pandemic will get across your border faster. So there is an increased chance. I don't know how. Maybe they ran some spooky numbers on how many people it would be and said it was like uh, a what do you call it? Insignificant number of people. Maybe. I don't know. Definitely. I remember because I started doing this show at the beginning of the pandemic, just like right before the beginning of the pandemic. Maybe a little bit before that. And there's some like blooper. There's some outtake shows, but uh, I remember back then they were saying that immigration, our porous border, was making it more of a COVID threat. This is something that has been a theme that's been going around for months now. Apparently, they have evidence that it's not true. I mean, it's like the problem that I have with these fact checkers is it's like, besides the fact that these people have personal bias, um, who are these people? They're just like Facebook fact checkers, and then like what group of fact checkers, and what kind of bias do these people have? Like, what was the? How do we even go about a system to even like find what these people were talking about? Like, you kind of gotta like trust. You gotta hope that like your news source is gonna link you into the thing where it could show you what the original thing was that they said. But really, they don't. They don't do that a lot of times. It's just like you just gotta trust them, and then they're Democrats and they hate Trump, and they'll say and do anything to get Trump out of office. So you just kind of have to kind of trust them, and I trust them as far as I can throw them, and if I tried to throw them, I would probably throw out my back, right? So I don't trust them at all. It also announced it will ban, it being Facebook, will ban ads supporting militarized movements and QAnon because they're political threats to them. The company began restricting and removing pages linked to the organization under its new policy in August. More than 300 groups have been identified under over 6,500 groups and pages have been removed between August 19th and September 15th, company exec said. Facebook said it saw an uptick of Proud Boys related content Wednesday after Trump refused to condemn white supremacists during the debate. So I have a problem with this because it's like, okay, QAnon, a lot of that QAnon shit's like wingnut. Like, okay, so it starts out, there's a group of pedophiles who are anti-theist, and then they're like controlling Hollywood and uh, the government, and then this morphs into they're a satanic cult of pedophiles, to they're sacrificing babies, to they're making gravy out of 2-year-old babies' brains. So where it goes to like this very abstract thing where it's like, all right, anti-theist. They had sex with some teenagers, and then they're calling it pedophilia. So like maybe it started out with some vague truth to it, and then it just started just like patching on cray, just like shh. And the next thing you know, it's like batshit crazy. But with that said, there's definitely that movie Cuties, Netflix. Like to them, that stuff was just completely normal to them. There are groups of people that to them it's totally normal to have sex with teenagers. For example, gay people in big cities in California. For them, it's perfectly normal to have sex with a 15-year-old boy, and they don't view it like it's like a statutory rape with a man and a woman. They think that is pedophilia, but then having sex with a 15-year-old boy is not. And this is kind of like where the QAnon thing comes from. And I think they just kind of go like left field. So like maybe there was just some semblance of truth to it, and then it went insane. But I have a big problem with them banning it when there's some semblance of truth to it. Even though there's some craziness to it, the concept of gravity at first was also, too, an insane idea until they started to get more evidence, and then they found it to be true. So, I definitely feel like they should not have Section 230 platform protections. If they want to moderate some of the content, they either have to moderate all of the content, or they have to moderate no of the content in order to comply with Section 230. They can't just moderate some of the content and then not moderate it all, or else it's akin to a bookstore that's picking out the books in the bookstore to sell, and they've determined that these ones all comply with the law, and then they're responsible for any tort offenses because they're a publisher, because they are, and this would be just like you and I also too, if we distributed some like copyrighted materials or some defamatory content or something, like we could be held liable. But bookstores would be held liable if they sold something that had violated a copyright law. But on the internet, it's expected that your users are going to violate copyright law, and they're going to harass, bully people, put up porn stuff. So those things we have to, if it's obscene or if it's illegal, those things have to be removed from the platform. But the moment they start targeting one group because they don't like their political agenda, I have a big problem with that. All right, definitely, I'm going to have a big problem with the Civil War too. Who wants a civil war in their country, right? Let's just blow everything up. Right. My life sucks. Let's make everybody's life suck. Right. So I think it's with Facebook, there's some good and there's some evil. I think they're like a benevolent, corrupt giant. It seems like a lot of these people up in the higher echelons of the ivory tower are like goody goodies, and they got fancy jobs, and their parents raised them right, and they fit in with the power structure, and so like they're okay with free speech suppression. But then the rest of the country is not like that. Like that's just the people up in the ivory tower. Uh, and then the rest of the country, you got like crazy grandmas that are closet racist, and they believe that the QAnon uh, conspiracy theory, where the satanic pedophiles are making gravy out of 2-year-old babies' brains, and it's because their friend called them up on their phone and they told them about some YouTube video, and it's like I can see the point of trying to get rid of disinformation because there's a lot of really bad disinformation on the internet. But I don't think that you can actually get rid of it. It's like, first off, what was life like before we even had the internet? Wasn't there like disinformation left and right? Right. Like people used to think if you sat too close to the TV that it would make you go blind. They didn't have any evidence for it. They just thought it. Like people think COVID spreads on surfaces. Like you need to go through and wipe all the counters down every hour or something. There's just no evidence that that was ever true. People just kind of assumed it. They're like, oh, it must travel. People must be getting COVID from the droplets. Or we just kind of assume the droplets and the aerosols are the same thing because you're like, all right. I mean, I know what an aerosol can is. Like, what does that mean? What's a droplet versus an aerosol? So we're just like making this assumption that we wear a mask and then it blocks out the droplets. And then we make an assumption that this would the droplets are the same thing as like an aerosol, which is a very fine mist, as opposed to like a spray bottle that's got like a fine mister and then a coarse mister, one that's got bigger drops. Like if you sneezed on somebody and then you got drops on their face, that would be droplets, as opposed to an aerosol, which is where you're breathing and then there's like viruses that come out of your mouth while you breathe, and then they just come out and they're floating around out in the air. And like about half the people get COVID before they show any symptoms. So about 71% of the people that tested positive for COVID, they wore a mask everywhere. So you have to start calling into question, okay, well, is it an aerosol or is it the droplet? And they were like, okay, well, we just kind of made an assumption that what this was true. We didn't have any evidence based upon it. And so I have a problem with Facebook being the arbiter of the truth because they've not been very good at being the arbiter of the truth. They seem to be more like a political organization that's trying to push Black Lives Matter because they want the minorities to be on their platform. It seems to be more like a business thing for them, where it's all about money. The bottom line, they just want to control international politics, and in Europe they have anti-hate speech laws, and anything that's labeled far right, they will attack. And so they just broaden the definition of far right to where you can put as many people as possible because it's an attack that it works. It's okay for them to attack somebody on the far right. It's not okay to attack minority groups or a disabled person, but it's okay to attack white people because white people own slaves and they took the land from the American Indians, and they had a patriarchy that they used to oppress women. And so this makes it so it's okay to target them, but it's not okay to target anybody who's black or brown. The only people you can target are the white people. And then so you expand the definition of the far right so it becomes as large as possible so you can attack whoever you want. And so this is the big problem with they're labeling QAnon as far right, but the definition of far right means left-right politics, like flat social hierarchies on the far left, and then steepest social hierarchies on the far right, like Nazism, Sharia law. But you can't not. It's perfectly okay to hate white people who are far right, but it's not okay to dislike Muslims because they're misogynist. They're conflicting morals that the left has, that they're Steven Pinker's universal morals, where there's fairness, there's group loyalty, authority, self-protection, and cleanliness. And so you have the notion of fairness, which is supposed to theoretically protect us. And then sorry, I'm trying to draw it back to my point of what I was talking about a second ago. Oh, and then if you don't agree with the fairness, then you violated the group loyalty. That's the problem. Biggest problem with lefties is they typically turn into violent hate mobs when they don't get everything they want, because they start saying it starts out as this whole we're trying to protect people thing, and then they develop a line that they say, they keep repeating the propaganda line over and over and over again, and then they don't want to stop with it because they have something that's working. They're getting their way, so they have to keep the system going, and to keep the system going, there constantly has to have that boogeyman there. You have to have somebody that you're demonizing, and so it just constantly morphs from one person to another, where they're saying, no, this is a person that's in the other tribe, and it's the other tribe that it's doing the wrong. It's not our tribe, it's the other people. And so they are using this far right slander it as a pejorative. They're saying, like, you're a Nazi, you're a white supremacist, you're subhuman, you don't deserve to live, you don't deserve to be in our community, you need to be ostracized. That's fundamentally the most dangerous thing about this, because QAnon, a lot of these people, like, that I've known who believe this shit are like some crazy old white ladies, like some like straight up like racist old white woman. You're like, they start spouting off shit. You're like, whoa, man, this bitch is crazy. But they're like, sure, they're a racist old white lady, but like, they're nice. They're like not horrible people. I mean, but they do go off on some cray, and they can get violent. I will say that. But at the same time, look at how much violence Black Looter Mob has been triggering. Like, they actually trigger hate towards people like me, because I got a YouTube channel, and a lot of people know me, and there's a lot of like low blows where you could just criticize me about something that I don't have any control over. And it's pretty easy to just buy into the line of like, I'm a demon, like I'm a bad, horrible person, but you got to look at the behavior pattern, what these people are trying to do. They're like trying to preach for equality. They're trying to say like, we're trying to help people out and like make everybody love each other, hold hands and sing kumbaya and shit. And then what they do is they target people who they think are enemies, and they demonize them, and they want to give them a load of their mind, and they want because they've been seeing all these stories about oppression of minorities and of the WAMN, and so they want to take out all their anger on the imaginary misogynistic pig, the imp racist boogeyman, the one from MSNBC and the Southern Poverty Law Center that keeps all the minorities in the big Democrat-run cities in poverty, that underpays them and causes all the crime in their neighborhood, that they then scapegoat onto the racist Republicans from the poor rural states. And it just ends up being like a scapegoat thing. Like they're trying to alleviate all this responsibility off of themselves. They're trying to say, no, I'm the white knight. I'm the one that's good. I'm the virtuous one. I'm the one that's in the right. They're in the wrong because they aren't sold on the same narrative as me. And they want you to, within 2 or 3 exchanges of conversations, they want you to agree with them. And then they just start insulting you after that. That's, I got a problem with that, because it's like, okay, QAnon's pretty kooky. And I've seen some people have tried to bully me, like just out of the blue, saying, I don't know, people just like say that if you try to support something that you're like a racist or a pedophile or something, they'll just use some words and then they'll attack you because it makes you sound bad, and they don't have to actually attack the substance of your argument. And then when we normalize this, we've just like killed the free discourse where we could have talked about this, like, okay, what's not kooky in QAnon and what is kooky? What is kooky is them making gravy out of 2-year-olds' brains. This is insane. What's not kooky? They're anti-theist, so they're Satanist, anti-theist, who are engaging in sex with children. Movie cuties. Let's see, we've got Jeffrey Epstein. Got more stuff about Jeffrey Epstein coming up here in a little bit, if I ever get to it. Might be at like 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like 2:07 in the morning right now. So I just think that we need to stop targeting people for their political ideologies, because it's just never fun when you're the one that's being targeted. If you feel like other people are fucking up everything that you've built in your life, your career, your business, preventing you from having a girlfriend because they're all crazy radicalized feminists now, it's like that just breeds hostility. And there are some legitimate claims to there might be drug cartels that have human trafficking networks with sex trafficking networks, and some of them are underage, and they're paying, like, for example, Hunter Biden, this guy, he's like crackhead, coke fiend, probably not a coke fiend, probably more like cokehead, and his daddy, Joe Biden, is getting him these sweetheart deals getting money from Russian oligarchs, Chinese Nazi Party companies, shady backroom deals where they're not just giving it to Joe Biden. They're just hooking his son up with a deal, and so it's not outward corruption. It's just helping your kid out, and then your kid does drugs, and then he's in with these drug sources, and like president, they're supposed to have cops everywhere, and the DEA is supposed to be coming in and taking out the dude with the crack, but they don't, because it's Joe Biden's son. So it's corruption. It's systemic corruption. And it's because they're liberals, because they're like, they're drug friendly, which I like them for. I think we need to legalize drugs. But maybe they shouldn't be organizing militias on Facebook. But Second Amendment of the United States Constitution says that you have a right to organize militias. It says the militia is a necessity of the free state. So if you can't organize a militia on Facebook, but you can organize a riot where they burn down your cities, and then Facebook can profit from getting donations from that. I'm not seeing that system working out for me. It seems like it's just a one-way street where they're just trying to shame the white man as being racist because of things that people before I was ever born did. And it's just because it's a tactic where they can get away with doing it, because people in the big cities want to get retribution on the people that they think oppressed them, and the minorities and the women. So it's just a scheme. I think they've gone just way too far with banning QAnon, because really you should be banning people who are violent, because it's like cyberbullying. And that was like a part of the Section 230. Like why they had that was part of it is harassing material, because people are just going to abuse stuff like that. So you have to get rid of harassing material. It also would have crippled the internet if you're going to go onto a lot of these internet platforms and you're going to get bullied, then why would you go there? It's just going to be a bad time. Somebody might hack me, so why would I want to do this? It would also kill the internet. We got to think that we want our policies to be based on. We want the policies to be based on whatever provides us the most innovation with the technologies, and to provide us the most innovation would be to provide us a way that we can spot disinformation ourselves and come to our own conclusion. But if we don't have the ability to even get the disinformation, then we don't have the ability to sort through the disinformation. So we're just going to have to tolerate with the crazy old racist white ladies talking about satanic cults of pedophiles making gravy out of 2-year-old babies' brains. Because it is rather entertaining, actually. It is batshit crazy. But does that mean that we should not allow it? No. It's pure entertainment. Dude, these crazy old racist white chicks are hilarious. Once you stop hating them for their ideologies.